And now coming to you live from an undisclosed location deep in the heartland of America, I'm Jeffrey Darty, the Christian Whistleblower. Welcome to the Christian Whistleblower channel. We may be under the radar, but we are always over the top, and today's going to be no exception. Talking today about the three worst sins in Christianity as defined by Christianity itself. And the idea here, just like everything else we do, is to help you unindoctrinate yourself, to give you the facts and the figures of what the Christian religion, the dominant one in our culture at least, is all about, and giving you the opportunity to evaluate, pardon me, and decide if it's something that you want to continue to be a part of. Because at the end of the day, you are divine, you are sovereign, you are free to make your own decisions and free to make your own mistakes. If you choose to go down that route, I'm just the mailman. I bring you the mail. Sometimes, rain, snow, sleet, dark of night, doesn't matter. I'm going to bring it. Sometimes it'll be bills and you'll hate me. Sometimes it will be checks and you'll love me, but I'll keep on bringing the mail, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to talk about the three biggest sins in Christianity, the three things that Christianity hates the most and why. And we talked about number one yesterday in a full program all about itself, talking about independent thought, talking about how Christianity goes out of its way to forbid individual thinking and to promise severe retribution for those that employ it. I'll link the video from yesterday, both at the end of this video and in the box below. You have to check that out. And they just don't want you thinking for yourself. So the number one sin in Christianity is independent thought. They just don't want you thinking independently. And I wrote down Proverbs 16 and 18. What was I thinking about with that? Proverbs 16 and 18. KW makes a good point that Christianity calls thinking a lack of faith. And they do. And it's not. Proverbs 16, 18. What does that say? Proverbs 16 and verse number 18 says, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Let's go ahead and show you this so we can get right into this and show you what the Greek actually means here. And it's actually Hebrew in this case because it is the Old Testament. And I want you to know what they're saying. I want you to understand what they're thinking about here. And verse number 18, come on. Trying to make it difficult for a person to do a little deep dive on the Old Testament scriptures. And that's not even the right verse. 16:18, not 15:18. Come on, Jeff. 16:18, Proverbs 16, verse number 18. Pride goes before a fall, a haughty spirit before destruction. So let's look at this. Before. So it's obvious what they want you to believe, that if you're prideful, you're headed for a fall. If you allow yourself to get strong in mind, you're headed for a fall. But what does the Hebrew actually say? Your faces. That's kind of weird, isn't it, that word would be faces? But anyway, faces are before destruction, before a breaking, before a fracture, before a crushing, before a breach, before a crash. Pride goes. What does this actually say? Arrogancy. But make sure you don't just take the first word. Look a little deeper. Redemption. Exaltation. Nothing wrong with exaltation. Majesty. Nothing wrong with majesty. Excellence. Nothing wrong with excellence. But arrogancy, you got an issue with. And when you engage in independent thought, you will face this difficulty. When you start, and it's an amazing thing, when you start thinking for yourself, when you get out of the fear and guilt control matrix that is Christianity, when you step outside the hive and out of the collective and you start thinking for yourself, it's tremendously empowering. It's like when you're in a relationship, and you ladies will resonate with this. You're in a relationship with a very controlling man, and you can be in relationships with very controlling women too, both boys and girls. And you've been hammered and hammered and hammered and hammered and beaten and beaten and beaten and beaten and conditioned and conditioned and conditioned and conditioned so long that when you finally get a breath of freedom and you finally get an opportunity to move in your own sovereignty and your own freedom, and you get an opportunity to make your own decisions, think for yourself, act for yourself, do what you want to do without having to think, if I do this, how's it going to affect him? If I do that, how's it going to affect her? How's he going to react? How's she going to react? When you first get the chance to start living in divinity and sovereignty and freedom, either in a relationship with a girl or a guy or a relationship with a God, that freedom can be somewhat intoxicating. And sometimes you overreact. You kick up your heels a little too high. You go a little too footloose and a little too fancy free. And maybe, just maybe sometimes you do act in arrogancy. You do things just because you can do them, and you're trying to remind yourself that you can do them, and because you haven't been able to just do them because you wanted to do them for a long time. So the arrogancy can sneak in, but there's no problem with exalting the divinity that is in you. There is no problem with recognizing the majesty that is within you. And there's no problem clinging to, recognizing, building, and developing the excellence that is within you. Now, Christianity wants you to believe that before destruction, before a breaking, a fracture, a breach, a crush, a fall, that exercise of individuality is going to bring the destruction. They want you to think that if you don't think like they tell you to think, just like the controlling God acts the same way. Just like the controlling girl, the controlling God acts the same way. You won't be anything without me. You'll crash and burn without me. If you don't do what I say to do, you're not going to make it. But the idea is that as pride, exaltation, majesty, excellence of individuality, making sure that we don't get into arrogancy, because if you do get into arrogancy, you can take some falls. But you know what's cool? Even if you fall by being a little too arrogant in your exaltation, your majesty, and your excellence, when you get up, you're still free. But what they are showing us here by way of disclosure that they have to give is that when you reach into this what they call pride, but when you reach into this excellency of self, when you reach into this exaltation of self, when you reach into this majesty of the divinity that is in you, once you find that, there will be a destruction. Oops, I'm not showing you this. Once you find that, there will be a destruction. And there will be a destruction of the fear. There will be a destruction of the guilt. There will be a destruction of the control. There will be a destruction of the matrix of the mind that you've been enslaved in when you realize your majesty, your excellency, your glory, and when you temper down the potentiality towards arrogance. So there will be a fall. If you get too arrogant, you'll fall, but good news, you'll still be free. If you do embrace your excellency, your majesty, it will destroy the fear and guilt control matrix that you are now enslaved by. And cousins, I say it's worth the risk. Do it. And then, and before, same thing, same word, a fall. What's a fall? A fall would be a stumbling, figurative, a calamity. So before a fall would go a haughty spirit. What's a haughty spirit? A spirit that's high, a spirit of haughtiness, dignity, height, pride, loftiness. Wouldn't it be a horrible thing if you got out of the fear and guilt control matrix that says you're a dirty, rotten sinner saved by grace and actually realized the internal dignity you have? Wouldn't that be a terrible thing? Well, evidently it's a terrible thing for Christianity. What if you realize the height upon which you sit as a divine, sovereign, and free being? What if you realize the lofty position that you have as a divine, sovereign, and free being? And what if you begin to understand the raised platform? That's a throne. The throne that you sit on as a divine, as a sovereign, as a free being, as a creation of the Almighty Ones. And what happens? They say when you do that, well, that's when you get a fall, you stumble. The reality is you fall out of favor with their fear and guilt control matrix, and you realize who you are, and you realize the internal majesty and power that you have. You realize that you are essentially a divinity on a throne by birth. And of course, we have to keep that measured and we have to keep that reasoned. But they don't want you to think about these things, because if you realize your individuality, you're free. When you realize your individuality, they have no control over you anymore. That's why independent thought is one of the most deadly sins of Christianity, because once you start doing it, you won't remain in the fold too long. Once a woman gets a taste of real freedom and sovereignty, she's not going to stay with a abusive man. Once a man gets the real taste of sovereignty and divinity and freedom of mind and heart and spirit, he's not going to stay with a controlling woman. He's not going to do it. Nearly 100 times in the Bible, independent thought is warned against. Think of that. Number 2 of the 3 things that Christianity hates, the 3 worst sins in Christianity, is sexuality. Your independent thought is a bad sin. Don't do it. Sexuality is a bad thought. It's a sin. Don't do it. Over 250 times in the New Testament, sexuality is condemned. And it goes to this extent. And why do they want you? Well, we're going to get into it. Let's look at Matthew chapter 5, verse number 28. One of the most ridiculous verses within the Christian scriptures, in my opinion. Let's look at it. And with LeakCon coming up, I'll say it one time. Will you just look at it? LeakCon math on May 17th, 18th, I believe. I'll be there. I hope you will be too. Okay, watch this. Matthew 5:28. But I say to you, whosoever looks on a woman to lust after her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Well, number one, I'm offended, because what about the women that look at me to lust after me in their heart? Have they committed adultery, or is it just a dude thing? I'm kidding. I'm playing. I'm joking. But think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Think about the fear. Think about the guilt. Think about the control that this puts you under. Think about it. You're a red-blooded American male. And you're walking down the street and you see a red-blooded American female and she's looking good. And you look at her and you say, wow, she looks good. Dirty, rotten, sinner, on your way to hell, adulterer. And you're like, I'm a man. She's a good-looking woman. I noticed. You're a woman walking down the street, red-blooded American woman, or South African woman, or all from wherever you're watching today. You see a dude, he's looking good. You're like, ooh, he looks good. Dirty, rotten, horrible, sinner. Can't you see how that is against nature itself? Dudes are built to notice pretty girls. Girls are built to notice good-looking dudes. Because if we didn't, we wouldn't last very long. And the assumption in this verse is that every time you look, and I'll just speak for myself, every time a man looks at a woman, the assumption in this verse is that when you look at a woman, that you're always going to be lusting after her. And what's the word lust mean? To desire, to lust after. Let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. Is it possible to desire without lust? And let's look at the actual word. What's it come from? It comes from 1909, which means to be on, to be against. Well, you want to be against, don't you? Joke. It means to be on, to look at, to take notice of. Surely it can't be a sin to take notice of it can't be a sin, something really, really bad, for a man to take notice of a good-looking girl. Surely it can't be something really, really bad for a woman to take notice of a good-looking man. So to take notice, 2372, means to have passion, to have an outburst of passion. So are you telling me that Christianity is telling you that if you look at if you notice a pretty woman and have passionate thoughts to her, that's adultery? What's adultery mean? Surely not. Adultery means a married man with a married woman, but also of a married man. It means to step outside of. It means to be unclean. It means bad, unclean sexual activity. But even the verse itself says that if you notice a beautiful person of the opposite sex and have passion for them, they want you to think that's a sin. They want you to think that you should literally gouge your eye out. Why are they so afraid of the natural order of men recognizing the beauty of women, women recognizing the beauty of men? Why are they so against that natural process? Probably the most talked about thing in the Bible, except for maybe the next thing we're going to talk about. Christianity's number one sin, or one of the big three sins, is independent thought. One of the next big sins is thoughts of a passionate nature, noticing the opposite sex. Not even sexuality, just noticing and having passion for the opposite sex. What kind of a world do we live in? And so many of you are on the transgender agenda, and you're on the getting rid of men agenda, and you want to yell and scream all day long about how they're trying to distort sex roles. Well, then why don't you yell and scream at your own Bible, who from the very beginning, 2,000 years ago, was trying to disrupt and distort and tear down normal men liking girls, normal girls liking men? You want to know where the transgender agenda started? You want to know where the agenda and the war on basic human sexuality started? You want to know where the war on relationships started? Matthew chapter 5. With the guy that you call the Christ, the curse that breaks the anointing. That's where it started, cousins. So they're against independent thought. They're against human passion of a sexual nature, or not even a sexual nature, just human passion, human attraction, one sex to the other. They're against. Why? And the third thing they're against, and there's even more scriptures in the Bible, in the Christian text about this, over 300 times, they're against magic, sorcery, witchcraft. They're against that. Why are they against that? Because what magic is, and let me get this straight, the character that turned water into wine is warning against magic. The amazing Jesus, water into wine, but he's against magic. Let me get this straight. The amazing Christ that turned water into wine. The amazing Christ that took a couple of loaves and a few fishes and fed 5,000 people, but he's against magic. The same book that talks about a prophet causing an iron axe to float to the top of a river, but it's against magic. The same guy that walked on water is against magic. They're not against magic. They're just against you using magic. They're not against magic. They're just against anybody but them using it. And you know why? Because magic ties back to individual thought. And some of the most effective magic goes back through the human passion. And magic at the end of the day is you learning how to recognize, how to focus, and how to use towards your own good and the corporate good, your intentions. That's what magic is. Knowing, understanding, and focusing the power of your thought. But to do that, you got to think independently. And to do it really good, you got to use passion. And you put it together, and what have you got? You got a bunch of people out of control, manifesting their own destinies and desires. And all of a sudden, they got no need for some stodgy God telling them what to do and what not to do, what to think and what not to think, who to look at and who not to look at. You see, ladies and gentlemen, that's why the three greatest sins in Christianity are independent thought, human passion for the opposite sex, and the direction of intention. And you know what's worse than those three sins? Is when you start putting those three sins together. Ooh. When you start taking the power, when you decide, I want to accomplish this, and you start applying the power and the essence and the intention of the strongest urge within humanity, that passion, and you start using it to direct your thoughts and your intention, you got some magic, cousin. You got some power, cousin. Is it any mistake that they had to write in their own book, which is the plan of attack against us? They had to say that love is the most powerful thing. What's one of the most powerful manifestations of love? Oh, and you know what? I'm going to show you this. Let me show you this. I don't know if I can pull this up easily or not. But there's three different words for love in the Greek section of the Christian scriptures. There's three different words for love. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull this up right off the top of my head because I don't know how they've got it listed here. Yeah, they don't have it listed in any way that I can access it. But the first, remember, the Bible says, and nature itself teaches us, that the most powerful thing in the universe is love. Love. Well, there's three different kinds of love. There is the phileo love, which means it's like Philadelphia, brothership, kinship. What if we made a decision, an intense and an individual thought, to focus our phileo love, our brotherhood, Our phileo passion, that passionate love, like the love I got for Jay, and like the love I got for Wayne, and like the love I got for some of the rest of you. What if we decided to pull that together and focus that through magic, through the focus intention, and use it to accomplish great things in this world? I don't know about you, but I just got some chill bumps. And of course, Rocky and Scotty. How can I leave my two spooning mates out? It's a joke, ladies and gentlemen. Could you imagine if we took our phileo, our love, and made a decision and used that phileo passion to focus that intention towards that specific accomplishment and sent it out in our intention, which is magic? No wonder the Christian gods don't want us doing that, because it takes them out of the equation and it lets us realize we're divine, we're sovereign, we're free. But what if we mess up? Oh, because they've never messed up. And the Christian God has never done anything to make this world a shitty place. Never, never, ever. I tell you what, if he's the standard, I got a lot of mistakes to make before I even approach the ineptitude of that idiotic, failed, flawed little g God. I am yet to intentionally kill babies. I have yet to order people to rip babies from their mother's womb. I have yet to march into people's houses and slaughter them and take them over. I have yet to kill races of people just because they pissed me off. Don't talk about me being worried about making mistakes with the direction of my intention. I don't think I can approach the mistakes that this little God has made just in the last few thousand years. And then there's another part of love that's called agapeo, and it's divine love, that God kind of love. And what if we decided to combine, we made a decision with our own thoughts to combine our agapeo and focus that towards a specific intention and direction? What would happen then? How about that? So our phileo, our agapeo, we can work with each other onto those things. But there's another kind of love, and it's called eros. That's the physical, sensual type of love. And where phileo and agapeo, it's requisite for us to work together, really. Eros, you can do that all by yourself. You can conjure up some good eros directed towards a positive intention and turn it loose all on your own. Now, could you do it together? Yeah, it'd be even more powerful. So do you think there's a little nugget in there of why Christianity is so against sexuality? And let's face it, we're big boys and big girls. Christianity has taught forever the horrors of masturbation. Oh, don't do that. It's the worst thing you can do. Why do they say that? Because maybe they're trying to hide something from you, and maybe they're trying to preserve their bureaucracy. The first rule of bureaucracy is preserve the bureaucracy, protect the bureaucracy. They don't want you draining their swamp. They like the swamp just the way it is. And the last thing they need is for you to realize that you can focus your own eros love to accomplish great things in your life and in this world. Why do you think that the biggest industry in this entire world, what's the biggest industry in this world? What's the biggest industry, the biggest, most watched thing on the internet? It's pornography. And I have a good friend named Tony Esposito. He's a great comedian. He says there's two kind of men. There's those that masturbate and liars. Because if you say you don't, you're a liar. Little joke. Point being, do you think that pornography just happened to become the most watched thing on the internet? Do you think pornography just happened to become the largest business in the world? Do you think pornography just happens to be run by the originators of the fear and guilt control matrix? The religion that first originated the fear and guilt control matrix, the Abrahamic fear and guilt control matrix, they control almost 100% of porn. But I'm sure that it doesn't really matter. It's just a coincidence. If you don't think that pornography was invented to keep you from manifesting through autoeroticism, your power and your magic, then you're stupid. And you need to really pull back until you hear a pop, because you got your head stuck somewhere it don't belong. You can do great things when you think independently. You can do great things when you learn how to use your sexuality and not have your sexuality use you. And you can do great things when you put those two together and use the power of magical intention. That's why Christianity doesn't want you knowing those truths. That's why Christianity has identified those three things as the three greatest sins. Wow. I got to tell you, every now and then an old dog has to wag his own tail. That's good stuff right there. That is some good stuff. David Castle, you're so bad. Dwayne Copeland, sex magic, yes. There's a certain Abrahamic ethno-religion that dominates the porn industry. Yes, there sure is. Some people do not masturbate. Some do not even have sexual urges. May I suggest to you that that's also a product of the Abrahamic fear and guilt control matrix? Porn is a drug. Yes, it is. That's absolutely true about porn. Real magic, true magic causes no harm. I love it. Jenny Constantine, huge push from the left to normalize sex work. Jenny, do you think maybe so they can continue to keep us all messed up around the idea of sexuality? Everyone does it, even those that say they don't lie. Yeah, that's what I said. Pornographers brag about porn bringing Christian men down. Forget Christian men. How about men in general? And ladies aren't immune. Sniffing out an agenda. Jeffrey, you're sending shockwaves through the ethos. Well, I'm trying. Porn is promoted by the dark side. Not just men, says Cynthia. Pornhub is the largest internet site. Doesn't surprise me a bit. Doesn't surprise me a bit. Think about this. It is 12:35 p.m. Central Standard Time, or Daylight Time, I don't know, on April the 24th, 2019. How many people do you figure right now in the world are masturbating at this moment? There's 7 billion people on the planet. There's at least 10% of them, which is, if my Bible College math is anywhere close to right, like 7 million people. I wonder how many people are on Pornhub right now. If somebody could pull up one of those websites that tells you traffic. How many people are on Pornhub right now? And what would happen, and I guarantee you, of the, let's just say 10 million people that are masturbating right now across the world, across the globe, or across the flat earth, if you will. We're not trying to fight that battle here. Of the 10 million people that are masturbating right now, how many of them are using it to focus their intention towards a helpful conclusion? Probably zero. But just think of the 10 million people right now that are doing that. If we could influence 1%, 2%, 3% of them to actually do it with a focused intention towards a greater good. Get a better job, be a better man, be a better mom, lose some weight, start working out, change the world, plant a tree, become a better person. If we could move the needle, the needle, he said the needle. That's not what I meant. If we could move the needle even a little bit, think of the power we could unleash. The power of positivity. We are waiting up to here in the tulpas and in the dead, dark, dense energy created through pornography, masturbation, orgasm, and expression of that energy into the world we all live in. We're up to here drowning in that stuff. What if we can move the needle a few points towards the positive? That's why they don't want us learning this, hearing this, and they sure don't want us knowing this, doing this. It'll mess up the entire paradigm of power. Sex magic led me down a long path for a dark time. Well, so has Christianity, Julie James. You messed it up. Hey, I've messed things up too. But you know what? I once had a bad meal, Julie James, and I didn't stop eating. I once got a bad haircut. Somebody said it was this one, but I didn't stop getting my haircut. I once met a cat I didn't like, but I didn't give up on cats. And I've had some shitty relationships, but guess what? I didn't give up on relationships. My point, Julie, I'm sorry that you had a dark path for a long time. Religion can lead you down a dark path. Anything can lead you down a dark path. But if there's a very dark path, then you know there's a very light path. And please don't bring that fear and guilt into here. I understand what you're saying. I don't sense bad intention from you. But just because, oh my God, something bad happened, you know what? Airplanes crash every day, and I'll still get on one and go see my grandkids without a moment's hesitation. Cars wreck every day. I'll still get in one and go to the grocery store. I don't let fear rule my life. I don't let fear rule my life. I thought that was a pretty good message that Applejack Hope had in there, and I was going to address it, and Tracy zapped it. Thank you, Tracy, for being so vigilant. Thoughts and beliefs manifest reality. Yes, they do. Oh, somebody said, Jeff, it was Jeff, are you a warlock? Well, how do you define warlock? What does it say? What's warlock? Let's look at the definition of warlock. Warlock. A man who practices witchcraft, a sorcerer. Well, what's witchcraft? Witchcraft is the direction of your own intention. Sorcery is the manipulation of natural energies towards a positive end. So I guess under that definition, and get ready, everybody that hates me, start the tape right now so you can get this and make a video about it. According to that definition, I am a warlock, and I'm absolutely 120% unrepentant about being that. If being a warlock means focusing your intention towards positive ends, if being a warlock means directing the natural energies towards a positive ends, then call me a warlock with a capital W. Did I make myself clear? Thoughts and beliefs manifest reality. Yes, they do. All three forms of love can be used. Yes, they can. The horror, says Fana everything. Jeff mentioning Rocky and Scotty and now talking about masturbation. Thanks for that tie-in, Chase. I wasn't going there, but anyway. Wow, Jeffrey, thank you. Let the priest do it. Sins of the flesh is nonsense. Thank you, Miss Space Cake. Masturbation is a good thing. It can be a bad thing. It can be a good thing. Drinking tea can be a bad thing. Drinking can be a bad thing. And it can also be a good thing. It can also be a good thing. Love and hate are two sides of the same coin. So Jamma says you'll go blind. Jenny says turn it loose, laugh out loud. The greatest of these is love. They use people's fear to manifest. We use our love to do powerful things. Cassie Opiash. Love it. Dang, Jeff, so many great points. Coming from Jenny Constantine, that means something. Jenny Constantine is one of the leading edge minds of our generation. Very open, very fresh, very powerful. Yeah, she doesn't get everything right, but for her to say so many great points, thank you, Jenny. I appreciate that very much. And she'll be speaking at the ECETI Ranch extravaganza on the July 4th weekend out in Trout Lake, Washington. So think about going out there and seeing the one, the only Jenny Constantine, the artist also known as Jenny Moonstone. Physical is what the universe is. We have a physical body to exist there. Yep. And we can manifest things. Magic is not something we do. It's what we are. Yeah, but we got to do it. I get you, Scott. We got to do it. Opposite of love is fear. Yep. Monkey Experiment says, oh, yeah. Let's start now, says Alejandra. Well, can you at least wait till the show's over? Or if you got to start now, get some good intention towards this show. And by the way, thank you, Alejandra. Thank you. I know I've been bringing some tough stuff, and I know I've been bringing some hard to swallow stuff, but I think that there's a lot of removal of subscribers going on from the channel. So even though if you've been a subscriber forever, please go back to the channel and make sure you're subscribed, because I think a lot of you have been dumped off and not of your own volition. If you've decided to unsubscribe, well, I respect your decision. I hope you'll come back. But if you got unsubscribed unwillingly, please go back and hit the subscription button again. And I know that my subscriptions have gone down a little bit, but guess what? It is what it is. It won't make me change the way I do things. It won't make me change what I say. It won't make me change what I do. I prefer to look at it as not losing subscribers, but maybe a sifting of subscribers, because let's face it, cousins, not everybody's ready for what we do here. And we got to get a good, firm, solid, strong base so we can begin to manifest and blow this thing up. So am I worried? Not at all. But if you've been unsubscribed, make sure you are subscribed unless you meant to unsubscribe. And if you did, I hope that you'll come back. But if you don't, I got to do it. Well, and I don't really mean that, but I just wanted to say that because I love saying it. It's funny. You got agape? Yeah. Let's see. Free will equals temptation. I like that, Julie. Free will equals temptation. That's something to ponder right there. That is something to ponder right there. The dark side uses sex all the time. Oh, somebody very smart said to me, why don't we start using the dark side instead of letting the dark side use us? They've got us convinced that sexuality and masturbation and expression and men liking girls and girls liking men, they've got us convinced that's the dark side. It's not the dark side. That's the light side, cousin. That's love. That's who we are. That's what we do. It's time for us to start taking what they've used as a weapon against us, turning around and start putting it right back in their faces. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. But it's time for us to start being the aggressors instead of those that are being aggressed upon. It's time for us to start taking what's ours and using it like it's ours. Sexuality is not equal to pure magic. I disagree with that, but that's okay. Thank you for being somewhat polite. You should have put that all in all capital letters. When you move from pure love, it is not sexual. Sexuality is not equal to pure magic. Thana, no, you're got your mind warped from 2,000 years of fear, guilt, control matrix. Pure love is sexual. Who says sexuality can't be pure love? I reject that. Sexuality can be a manifestation of pure love, should be a manifestation of pure love. And Jana, with all love, Fana, everything with all love. If your sexuality isn't come from pure love, you ain't doing it right, sweetheart. You ain't doing it right, sweetheart. Sexuality can be equal to pure magic. We just haven't done it right. We just haven't done it right. Cassiopeia was wondering when I'd go here. Well, here I am, at least starting. I've been wanting to go here for about 3-4 months, but you just can't go here, you know? Fake is better fakeness because fake doesn't want to be out faked. That's like a Confucius say thing from KW. I can't even touch that one right now. Now I have the urge to get my runes out. I like that. Said nobody. Laughter is the greatest spell breaker. I would agree. Absolutely, 100%. I think Johannes might be cross. I'm not sure. The old gods are our friends, not our enemies. The old gods are crafty. They didn't have any problem taking advantage of us when we were dumb. But I don't think they're our enemies. And they can be and will be and are now being made our friends. But, you know, when you get into a relationship with the old gods, I love what Jenny said. And I've repeated it 100 times. Jenny says, I don't worship any gods, but I respect a couple of them. And respect doesn't mean you just turn your back and don't care and don't. I encourage interaction. Here we go. Roll the tape again so you can make a video about this against me. I encourage interaction with the old gods. But I also encourage diligence in your interactions with the old gods. They're gods for a reason. They've been around longer than we have, and they know more tricks than we do. So you got to be diligent. You got to be vigilant. And don't sign any paperwork. And for God's sake, don't do anything with blood over intent. You got to be stupid times 3 to do that. So just be careful. And we'll start talking about that more and more. I've wondered why we use words like optimistic and pessimistic. That's interesting. I spend magic 24/7. Okay. I love it that aliens are hearing this. That's rather random, but I guess they are. So we should do all 3 together. Free thinking, sex, and magic. Bingo, Chase. You got it. My work here is done. Next question is how. We'll get to that. Monkey experiment. I'm a lusty sinner. I didn't say anything about lust. What is the definition of lust? Not the biblical definition, but what's the definition of lust? The word lust in the Bible is just passion. Nothing wrong with passion. Lust is sexual desire. Nothing wrong with sexual desire. Sexual appetite. Nothing wrong with that. Sexual longing. Nothing wrong with that. Sexual passion. Nothing wrong with that. But lust, you know, when you've moved from a pure passion to an impure lust, you know it. I don't have to explain that to you. And no one's here advocating impure lust. We're here advocating the power of passion. Cosmic magic is our birthright, says Jenny Constantine. Boom. Only Jesus gets to do magic. Nobody else. Now you're starting to get it. Who said that? Love always. Now you're starting to get it. Now you're starting to get it. Jenny, only their dead God can utilize the cosmic magic? Sounds like a trap. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We are the embodiment of magic. Incubus and succubus. Here we go again. Oh, my God. One time I had sex and it was bad, so I stopped doing it forever. Sorry for you. Yeah, bad things can happen. I had a bad meal once, got sick, threw up. I didn't quit eating. Come on. You have something bad. You know what, Johannes? You should stay in bed every day. And you know what? People even die in bed. So now what are you going to do? Man, bad things can always happen if you try something. But if you don't try anything, nothing will happen. And guess what? That's worse. That's worse. Get out there and enjoy the experience of having your ass handed to you. Get out there and fail spectacularly and see how that feels. But be careful, because you'll get out there and all of a sudden you'll have an amazing victory. All of a sudden you will overcome. And woo, it only has to happen once. And you'll never be comfortable on the porch again once you've run with the big dogs. Jump on down here. Be a big dog, run in the high grass. We got your back. I got no strings to hold me down. We're singing Pinocchio now. That's awesome. That's awesome. All of our instincts are just shameful. That's what they want us to believe. Boy, there's a lot of comments in here today. Appreciate it. It's physically impossible to deny attraction. Just keep it clean. Well stated. Well, I'm a lesbian. Does this lustful thing apply to me? Of course it does. Of course it does. The magic thing applies to you too. Can we imagine a world where all these truths were taught? Boom. Heck yeah. Heck yeah, ladies and gentlemen. Heck yeah. I didn't mean to stay here so long today. Great topic. Great comments. Thank you for weighing in. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, you do have to work on your sex expression, Julie, 100%. Is there a video to learn how to use the divining rods? You just do it. Be nice to them. Ask them to show you yes. Ask them to show you no. They don't work for everybody. There's few people they don't work for. Heidi said she slept with hers, talked nice to them, petted them. If you have a cat or a dog, rub them on your cat or dog. It's a relationship. You got to build a relationship with them. You really do. I know it sounds crazy, but you're the one that spent $40 for copper rods. And yeah, they work. You just got to be nice to them. You just got to be nice to them. All right, ladies and gentlemen. The 3 great sins of Christianity, the 3 worst sins of Christianity. Now you know what they are. Now you know why they are. And now you know that it's time for us to start using all 3 of them and to start using all 3 of them together. We'll talk more about that in the days and the weeks and the months to come. Until then, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. We are here to help you guide your spirit, master your own ascension, be your own guru. I want to encourage you to keep asking questions, keep questioning answers. Don't settle for their I am, because we are divine, sovereign, and free. We are the anointed. But you won't understand that, and you won't be able to move into that until you unindoctrinate yourself.